What I'd like to ask at the start of this is, do you know what the two basic principles to all cleaning is? Now, I know there's a lot of people that have a lot of different thoughts about this, but we'll try to answer that question at the end. So today's webinar, as you can see, is hosted by the Green Clean Institute, and we're proud to have you here. We are an international organization that provides excellence in cleaning knowledge. One of the things that we focus on is why we clean and then how to clean. This is very important to us. We focus on the education of the frontline worker. This is our mission, and regardless of whether you might think about it or not, but every single one of us at some point is a frontline worker using chemicals. Maybe you don't get paid for it, but you do clean at home or around where you live. As I said before, my name is David Thompson. I've had 40 years of cleaning knowledge from being in the industry. I have owned my own cleaning contracting service. For the past 25 years, I've been a distributor of cleaning goods here in Central Missouri. I have a green cleaning professional certification from ISSA and also have a certification from the Chemical Free Cleaning Network as one of their advisors. I am a member of the IEHA program, and GCI is a member of the National USGBC. Now, Daryl Hicks here is a co-author of our Greening Infection Prevention course. He is a nationally recognized infection prevention expert. Between 2006 and 2008, he was the IEHA president, and he is also a registered executive housekeeper. He is also a member of AHE and is a certified healthcare ES professional. And as you can see in the picture there, he is the author of Infection Prevention for Dummies. It's in its second, I believe it's second volume now. You can also find us on our social media sites, which include Facebook, Twitter, and we encourage you to go to our LinkedIn groups. We have a couple of those. And we also have the mobile app, of which you can see the QR code there. Now, the logistics of our day today, I will be trying to keep this to 1 hour minimum. It's a big topic, so bear with me if we go a little bit over. We will be providing a recording of this webinar online afterwards. And if you are a GCI certified firm, this webinar and the quiz that accompanies it will count as one CEU for your recertification. But before we get started on the meat of the material here, I'd like to ask those that are attending with us today, what type of operation do you work for? Now, as we wait for the poll to come up here, you'll be able to see that we're asking, are you a building service contractor? Do you work for an in-house operation or a residential operation? Or are you just a homeowner? Okay, seems like our poll is not working as it should. Bear with me just a moment. Well, tell you what, we'll just go on past that. Well, I'm being told that it is working. Let's see if we've got that poll now to come up. Well, I'm not sure if you're seeing it, but I've run into a problem on my side, so hopefully we'll get that back a little bit. Well, I see that the results are up. Hopefully you can see that. I'm not seeing it. Sorry about that, folks. Okay, so I'm being told that 30% of the group is for building service contractors, 40% of the group are in-house operations, Homeowners are 20%, and we have about 10% that are distributors. So it looks like we've got a good variance of people. It's nice when technology works right, isn't it, folks? So anyway, let's go on into this. The phrase you see here, green starts with health, it is not just here because I'm talking about green infection prevention today. It's here because it's the #1 question that I get asked, and this is my answer. What is green cleaning? It is health. It is the health issues. This is truly what green starts with and also ends with. Everything you do in between is your different shades of green, if you will. Now, what I have found is that changing the mindset of the individuals that believe that green cleaning is only about the selection of product and equipment and programs, this is the hardest part of green cleaning. It's the hardest thing to change. But whenever you take this down and focus this on the frontline worker of product, and as we said, we have different people from different places here of what they're doing, and what this is doing is telling us that we have a variance of people that are joining us today, and we are all frontline workers using products. Now, what I'm going to show you today is that it's not all about products and chemicals, although those are key parts. That's not the main issue. Now, cleaning services are part of any green building. I'm not sure whether you're cleaning in a LEED certified building or one that's trying to get accreditation by some way, but it's not just about energy conservation, it's not just about water management, and it's not just waste reduction. It's all of it. And the cleaning services are a huge part of what we're talking about in green. You cannot have a green building if cleaning services are not a part of that. So one of the things that I've said, and as you can see from 2007 I've said this, that it's not enough to say that the building is clean, because this does not mean that it is healthy. But if a building is healthy, it is going to be clean. And what I'm driving at here is that we are focusing on cleaning for health first and appearance second. In most cases, in most places that you've worked, it's always talking about appearance first and then health. We look at it a little differently, but we do not want to leave out the appearance. It is very important. So one of the things that Daryl and I agree on is this statement that Daryl has here. Outbreaks or pandemics of disease are a business concern, and it should not be an excuse for not implementing green practices in the workplace. In recent days, H1N1, MRSA, and bird flu have sent shockwaves through the world because no one wants to see a pandemic or a communicable disease devastating the communities. Therefore, businesses, schools, and other areas of public interaction are resorting to drastic means to clean facilities that have been unknowingly infected. Now, this is our challenge. How do we deal with this challenge? Well, the way we deal with it is through two very important ingredients that are key to the growth of green and cleaning for health. And these are information and education. Now, never before has this type of education been available for the frontline worker until now. And if you think that this excludes you because you're not a frontline worker, as I said before, everyone at some time in their life, currently or in the future, is going to be using a cleaning product in everyday life, in your job. So we are addressing the issues that are showing that the welfare of the worker is the prime concern first. We didn't say only, but first. Now, one of the things that you need to understand is that bacteria can colonize in areas of a building, and you see here an air duct full of things that are holding bacteria and stuff. But This bacteria that you see here right underneath the air duct also is in the nasal passages of the employees. Now what I'm trying to say here is that workers are not immune from contracting a disease or compounding the issues for themselves or for others. So now there's questions that need to be answered. We have a lot of questions, and these questions need to be answered before a situation arises, and this must be part of your greening infection prevention program. So my question is, as you look at Joe Chemical here, what products really work? And if you have a problem, what steps should be taken when these issues arise? Now you see the gloves here. This is part of personal protection equipment. Should you be using this? Another question you should ask is, what should I wear for a disease that's on the surface? But now what about those airborne diseases? We're going to work around and have a mask. Do we need gloves? These are questions that you should ask, because the end result here is that those things that you're coming in contact with have direct, immediate impacts on you as you're going to use these products. And these are the products that you're using to protect others. So what you use has immediate impacts, and this is why you should ask these questions prior to setting up your green infection prevention program. Now, my question is, what is being done now? What are you doing in your own home, in your place of business, in your operation? Now, these new diseases can be devastating, and there is a correct way to fight this spread of disease. Now, for most operations, they break protocol from their green programs, and they bring in the strongest, most caustic chemicals they can because they have this devastating disease that's coming around. Well, we would encourage you not to be part of that group. However, in most cases, we understand that a lot of people will use a chlorine-based product such as bleach, and if you must know that this is a product that the EPA has already declared to be hazardous to those applying the chemical. So what we're trying to say is the first person using the product is having the most immediate impacts from the use of that. This is a huge mistake to be using this when just, you know what, a little bit of research offers some very fantastic solutions. It is paramount to keep green protocol in mind as we service this need. So what happens when your system fails? What happens when you cannot keep illness at bay? My question is the disinfectant, is it really working? A disinfectant is only used because it kills microbes, not because it's a great cleaner. So if you have a spill, as you see here, it's not a great cleaner for that. In fact, most cleaning chemicals, most cleaning disinfectant chemicals can't do their job when there's high levels of organic soil in the way. So my question is, does your disinfectant really work? Can it really work whenever you've got active ingredients? These active ingredients are the soils that are there. These soils can absorb the active ingredients in the disinfectant and provide actually more places for the germs to hide. And this can change the chemical nature of the disinfectant. We'll get into that a little bit later, but you got to think, if you're using a disinfectant, does it really work? Now, greening infection prevention has to have a standard operating procedure. Our focus is on keeping that illness at bay. So in doing this, it must be to prevent microbes from getting a foothold and in the facility. And we do this by removing food and moisture. Now, these are two essential items that are needed to sustain living organisms. Now, by removing the organic soil, which is a green, which can be used done by using a green cleaner, you can give a disinfectant a much better opportunity to kill the targeted organisms. Now, this can be whatever bug it is in that facility that's making people ill. In fact, we can avert the need to disinfect in numerous situations because clean and dry surfaces cannot harbor microbial growth for very long. Now, this is where we're talking about our first examples of pH in physical removal. And these are used to reduce the numbers of the organisms that are causing illness. Now, let's move on to hand washing. Many times you've heard that hand washing is next to godliness, and it is. But you know as well as I do that we usually don't work with the soap and the water and rinsing of our hands as we should. Getting the germs off your hands should be 20 seconds. You just need to pay special attention, of course we all know this, to the fingertips, the nails. But this is, hand washing is, the second example of the two basic principles in all of cleaning. And this is physical removal and pH. This is the key ingredient. But now a survey was done, and let's see, this was a phone survey. I want to read this exactly because I don't want to mess this up for you. This phone survey found that 94% of the respondents claimed that they always wash up after using the restroom. Now you're probably sitting there going, man, I'm not sure I did the last time. Just before you sat down to your computer to watch this, you may or may not have. But in this survey, where they viewed 6,300 adults in public restrooms in New York, Chicago, Atlanta, New Orleans, and San Francisco, now 3,200 of those were male, 3,100 of those were female, so a pretty even group. They found that only 68% actually did wash their hands. My question is, did they wash their hands for the 20 seconds? What you need to understand is that your skin is one of the largest organs in your body, and it readily transfers what it touches to other parts of your body. Your skin absorbs chemicals. It absorbs fabric softener and other ingredients that we, from the clothing that we wear. We have patches for putting on our skin to absorb our medication. So what you're putting on your body definitely absorbs in. This is going into your bloodstream. We'll talk about that more later. My question is here is who is making the difference? Who is actually taking care of the individuals with allergies and asthma that are affected by all of this pollution and this dust and pollen and the VOCs that are in the air? You can see the HVAC system here. It cannot get rid of it on its own. It builds it up. It holds these mold toxins in the air. So my question is, who is going to address these non-clinical areas of our workplace or even in your home? You're not going to get your doctor to come and do this. The government may pass regulations, and they may impose penalties, which they haven't done in green cleaning yet. But it's up to the task of the custodians of our society to implement green cleaning standards that will make a difference. Now, before any disease comes our way, what we are doing by using all of these chemicals and using them carelessly is we've been lowering our resistance to the exposures that the very chemicals that we're using are made to treat. So let's hope that our next poll works a little better than the first one, because I'd like to know just what type of product do you typically use to control infections in your operation. Now I'm sure that the poll's coming up and it probably is going to do what it did before, so I'll bear with me and we'll have to kind of go through this. I'm sure you're seeing it now. First of all, many people use bleach, some use disinfectant, some use a sanitizer, some use vinegar, and some use water, whether it be activated water or whether it be one of the newer water technologies. So I'll give you a few minutes and we'll see if these will come up and show me what the results are of our people that have joined us today. Okay, it looks like we're coming up here with, well, this is good to see that bleach is not being used. 75% uses disinfectant. 0% of the people here use sanitizers. 8% use vinegar. And 17% are using water technology. Very interesting. Well, I'm glad we don't have any bleach users here today. That's a part of this I won't have to go over too much. So thank you for answering the poll. I'm going to go on here because from a greener viewpoint, my philosophy is that we need not to attack the problem with a bomb. This is what we're doing. But we need to do this with a better hammer. We need to focus on what the issues are. Now, if you're a residential cleaner, you are not immune from this problem. Families, they live in close proximity to each other, and they need to understand that this cleaning program is there to halt the spread of disease. This doesn't matter whether you're in a commercial setting or a home setting. This information that we're giving to you today is completely usable by every person, no matter where in the world you might be. It is known that not all cleaning operations that are claiming to be green are necessarily able to deliver the promise of green infection prevention, as many are still just grabbing the biggest gun that they can find and using the biggest, baddest disinfectant or chemical that's available. What we're going to talk about is, what do disinfectants do? Now, the purpose of a disinfectant is to kill. It is not to clean. And as such, the federal government recognizes disinfectants and regulates them as a pesticide under FIFRA, the Federal Insecticide, Fungicide, and Rodenticide Act. Now, manufacturers currently are prohibited from making any claims that their disinfectants or sanitizers are green or environmentally sensitive as a result of this FIFRA Act. Now, as you can see here, disinfectants destroy or irreversibly inactivate infectious or otherwise undesirable organisms, but not necessarily their spores. The purpose of a disinfectant is to kill. Let's move on and see how this might impact human health. Now, when I want to talk about what is it that makes all of this action take place, why are we getting these big disinfectants and all of these chemicals, why are we using them? It starts with the common everyday flu. It's influenza virus. Now, the influenza virus has the ability to survive on cloth or paper for 8 to 12 hours. It can survive in the air, on non-porous surfaces in ambient temperatures, which is basically our houses, for 24 to 48 hours. And if that surface is wet, such as maybe a floor or a shower, it can survive for up to 72 hours. Now, that being said, influenza virus is a very contagious respiratory illness. This is what is giving all of the issues and all of the problems to what we're doing. This is why we clean. This is why we're greening infection prevention, is because of this flu. 5 to 20% of the population get the flu every day or every year. Now, over 200,000 are hospitalized annually from flu-like complications. The flu spreads mainly from person to person, as you already know, and it's through coughing or sneezing. And this is from a person that has influenza, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later about a cough and a sneeze. But bear in mind, this is how 5 to 20% of the people are getting the flu. Now, sometimes this is because people that are infected are touching other people, or they're touching them, their nose, their mouth, and then spreading that to other surfaces. Most healthy adults may be able to infect others, beginning at day 1 before they even know they have the symptoms, and even up to 5 days after they become sick. So this is why the flu is such an issue. Now, janitorial operations must understand that there is an economic impact of the widespread infections, and that they are very important in the role of infection prevention. Once again, I want to remind you that we're back to the issue of removal, pH and physical removal, and it is the routine removal of this contaminant that will do more to break the chain of infection, and this is what we want to focus on. Rather than attacking it with a big gun, we want to pinpoint exactly what we're after. Now, to that point, the question is it a germ or is it a bacteria? Now, germs is not really a scientific term, but germs are better understood as bacteria, viruses, or fungi. These are living organisms. Now, understand that not all microorganisms are bad for us. Our method here is not to remove all microorganisms. We have to have them. Germs is a broad term that we refer to as the microscopic things that infect humans and animals. Now, a more proper term for these bad germs would be pathogenic bacteria. So understand there are 2 infections in the world that in infection prevention that we're working on, and these are viruses and bacteria. Now, to that point, I'd like to talk about viruses just a moment. Viruses are an infectious agent. They're smaller than bacteria. They require a living cell of an organism to grow and to reproduce. You see here 3 of the very common viruses that we are continually working after. Now, this would be all colds and flu viruses, of course the HIV virus, the hepatitis B virus, and also the norovirus, or what is considered the ship cruise, the cruise ship stomach virus. The real pity here is that most of these viruses can be controlled by diligent hand washing. It's from our body to a surface, and this is how it's being contracted by the most part. Now notice at the bottom here, antibiotics cannot kill viruses. So don't go and ask your doctor for something to kill this. It just doesn't exist. Now, bacteria is a little bit different. They are minute forms which cause infections in humans. Okay, so on the left you see the strep throat. You see the virus, and underneath it you also notice that there's a pill. We have a way to take care of this bacteria, unlike a virus. You also have ear infections. Here again, if you have an ear infection, we have a medication and drops for your ears. So what we're saying here is that there are antibiotics that can kill most of these bacteria. We all know of C. diff and MRSA, and these are items that cannot normally be controlled with antibiotics. This is why we have the antibiotic strains of bacteria. Now, bacteria has a very big knack for survival, and the reason is because it quickly adapts to its surroundings, and then it becomes it has the ability to survive. Its total goal is to survive. It is a survivor. Bacteria is surrounded by a cell wall. Now, unlike a virus, these bacteria can reproduce independently and can inhabit almost anything on Earth. Their ability to adapt to their surroundings makes them the basis of most of the antibiotic-resistant bacteria. Antibiotics can kill most bacteria, however, not all, and this is why we have the issues we do. Now, what I'd like to tell you is that while bacteria and viruses are not peers, it doesn't really matter whenever we're cleaning up after them, because the green solution may very well be the very same thing. And here again, I'm back to pH and physical removal, which will not only remove the contaminants, but will also remove the food source of which both of these items need to live. Now, if it's been too long, I know that we're at about half an hour. If you can't stay with us, I completely understand. Be sure to write down this link to our course. It is the full course on greening infection prevention. For those of you that have to leave us at a half an hour, you will see that if you go and take the full course, you will earn 2 full CEU credits towards your 2013 continuing education and recertification. For those of you that can stay with us, let us go on, because now we want to talk about disinfectant options. We have options. So some of the simple ones, we've already talked about bleach, and we don't want to use bleach, and thank goodness that nobody here does, so I'm not going to go into that. Let's start with vinegar. Only a 5% solution of vinegar in water will kill 99% of all bacteria, 80% of germs, and 82% of mold. Now, while this is being said, both lemon juice and vinegar are natural disinfectants, and they can be used with minimal adverse effects. However, let me tell you that using vinegar has the ability to, for example, if you're in a school setting and there's a chemical lab, the volatile organic compounds coming from the organic vinegar can set off an acid alarm. It has happened, but this is usually where it's overused. Again, notice here what it says, a 5% vinegar solution. You don't need to go over and misuse. Now, we've already talked about bleach. We know that it's not a green disinfectant, but I want to also point out that if you are one that has used bleach, or you know somebody that is, that not all of the household vinegar or bleach that you pick up is going to be an EPA approved product. You need to be very careful about this. And neither one of these products, bleach or vinegar, while they will disinfect, neither one of them are EPA approved green products. This being said, I also want to point out before I leave this slide that the EPA, excuse me, I'm sorry. The EPA registration does not mean that a product is safe to use. It simply means that there has been a process of review and disclosure. There are many EPA products that are not safe and are dangerous to humans, animals, and plants, so you really want to be careful. Just because it's EPA registered does not mean it's completely safe. Now, there are some very specific points, back to the little hammer and the nail, that we want you to focus on. The standard policy for infection control is to increase the sanitization of these high-touch points. This is going to be providing basic instruction needed for the cleaning hands policy of an office. So cleaning your hands, washing your hands, but then we've got to use the facility. These are the places that we touch, and not always are we washing our hands just before we do. And I won't list all these things for you, but this comes from the CDC, and whenever they're talking about this, this also goes for if you're trying to control MRSA as well. Now, does flu have a measurable dollar impact? Well, infection prevention is clearly a health issue, and the facts are clear that there are annual infection cycles. Now, many times this means that there's lost time from the job, we lose business, and there is serious suffering by individuals. Infection prevention is also a major monetary issue, and this affects schools and businesses, daycares, anywhere that people are the key ingredient to the business operating. So depending on the severity and the strength of the flu that is going around in that given year, a company can experience a near shutdown which means that there's money flowing out the window. It's more money that needs to be taken because we've closed the facility down. And this is always increasing our medical expenses on that weekly paycheck that we all have to endure. Now we're talking about this economic impact. Now the economic impact of the infections is really hard to calculate because there is no basis for keeping these financial records of the impact from it. It's kind of a random process. But the real impact can be found on the bottom line of an operation that has been shut down and has a very skeleton crew. And then they have to go in and add more cost to it by more sanitization, and all of this loses production, whether it be teaching students in a classroom, whether it be bringing more people in to take care of kids at the daycare. Even in an office building, you have to bring in extra people because somebody's out sick. These are the economic impacts of what improper infection prevention can do. Now, I told you we were going to talk about coughs and sneezes, and it's very ironic that we have here close to us in the States a hurricane that's about ready to hit the Gulf Coast, or is in the Gulf Coast and about ready to come on land. So I thought it was interesting here, the average speed of a sneeze is 90 miles an hour. The record speed of a sneeze is 110 miles an hour. Now, what does this have to do with what we're talking about? The main way that an illness like colds and flus are spread from person to person is a respiratory droplet of coughs. Now, what you see coming out of this gentleman here is what we call a droplet spread. Now, why do I have this up there? That 110 miles an hour is the same as a Category 2 hurricane. Now, I'm not sure about you, but whenever somebody sneezes, you really don't want to be in front of that hurricane of that droplet spread of that potential flu and cold. So what are we trying to do? We're trying to recognize that this droplet spread here has the ability of viruses to live for up to 5 months. When it comes to green year infection prevention, we need to be very vigilant in what we're going after. And these are the surfaces where this bacteria and viruses can live for days, months, and even years on the surfaces like cafeteria tables, doorknobs, desks, anywhere that there's enough soil to sustain life of these two pathogens. Now, what are we looking for? Where is it that we want to go to? Well, there's two different terms in the cleaning industry which you need to know. And these terms you need to know before you clean so that you know what you're trying to do. And these terms are fomite and vector. Now, a fomite is an object or a substance other than food which harbors or carries infectious organisms. Now, as you can see, we've got the warning fomite sign. Now, I never have seen one of these personally on any fomite that I have cleaned in my 40 years of doing this job. So I don't think that there's this warning sign. But you see all the little grimy germs that are hanging off of that door? This is where we're after. Now, I don't like vectors, but I am one, because a vector is a living organism that transfers disease. Now, it can be me, but most generally it's the pets or the rodents that are in the building. It can be flies and mosquitoes. It can be bed bugs. These are living organisms that move it from place to place. What you're after here is you are after the fomites, the inanimate objects that harbor and carry these infectious organisms. So what is the green factor and infections? As I said before, cleaning is next to godliness. We've all heard this. It's also very closely related to disinfection. Cleaning can avert the need to disinfect, and in many situations it's because we remove the sources for bacterial growth, and these are keeping that surface clean and dry. So therefore, infection prevention should be a subject that every worker understands. I'd like to tell you that cleaning is the leading edge of a healthy society, even as medical community is the trailing edge. Both are needed, and neither can be neglected. So preventing a virus from getting a foothold by removing the food and the moisture, which are the two essentials for all living organisms. This is the case that is making it paramount to use our cleaning procedures and whatever product that you choose to use, whether it be a sanitizer, a disinfectant, vinegar, water, as some of you have already mentioned. It's removing that film that can harbor the bacteria. I'm not going to go into this a whole lot. You can read this for yourself. There has to be a way to measure. We have now been using the ATP meter. As you see here in the hand, it measures the living organisms, the two essentials there. It's the food and the moisture that it's measuring. And this ATP meter is going to give us the way to look at a surface from a microbial level rather than from the naked eye. And the manufacturer here states that less than 10 is when the surface is considered clean. Above 30 is when it's considered dirty. This is the best way we have to date to, on the job, be able to view whether we're actually cleaning it at a healthy level. And again, this is not a killing factor, this is a removal factor. So we're back to the two basic principles in all of cleaning, which is pH and physical removal. Now staff and facilities management, we want to focus on a little bit here because MRSA, I'm not sure if you know what this is, it's methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus. It is a type of staph that is resistant to most or to some antibiotics. What I like to tell you is that 25 to 30% of the people have actually been colonized in the nose with staph, but less than 2% of those are colonized with MRSA. Now what does that mean? It means that a person can carry the bacterial organism, but they show no clinical signs or symptoms of the infection. And so this is how we carry it around, and it moves from place to place. And whenever you're talking about MRSA, the CDC recognizes that there are 5 C's that go along with it. So when I get asked the question, can I actually transmit MRSA at work, my answer is, do you have one or more of these 5 C's? Crowding, contact with people, compromised skin. If you're in a school district, you have compromised skin all the time. Contaminated items, you know, when the basketball players share the same towel, which I'm not sure that everybody should do, but that's what happens. There's also a lack of cleanliness in some places, whether this be at home or in the workplace. This is what we're looking for. MRSA has the way to get around, and this is by contact from skin to skin. But what we're trying to say here is we want to ask who's playing the defense, who is being defensive about this, and we always recognize that the very first thing is hand washing. It's keeping those cuts and those wounds cleaned out with soap and water. Then the next thing is keeping them covered, and this is covering them with a bandage. It is also using gloves if you're in that area, or avoid, as we said before, this sharing of personal items. When it comes to closing schools and closing facilities because of MRSA, it is not generally necessary to close schools to disinfect just because there is a MRSA infection. MRSA infections are transmitted primarily, as we said, from skin-to-skin contact, and it can be from surfaces that have been touched by someone that has an infection. And I'd like to point out in this picture that the workers are cleaning the high-touched areas. But what I'd also like you to notice is if they're cleaning up after MRSA It is not an airborne virus, and so there is not a need to be wearing a mask. And also, if you are cleaning up after MRSA, and this is the battle that you're against, don't use a dirty rag. It's very obvious. You need to be cleaning that rag, because now you're moving that MRSA from place to place and not removing it, no matter what cleaning chemical that you're using. I've been working with schools in the Missouri area for over 25 years, and as of today, I have not had one school that I've worked with that has been using the Greening Infection Prevention Program that has been closed down due to a MRSA or a flu outbreak, simply because they focus on the high-touch areas and they employ a standard operating procedure. Now, we're going to go into that a little bit more, but I want you also to know that MRSA is on the rise. So just last week, the Time magazine was reporting that MRSA has been seen increasing in a number of states in the Union. Now, there's a couple of different products. We've already talked about bleach and vinegar. Hydrogen peroxide is another product that is being used. Accelerated hydrogen peroxide, these both have been touted as germ, mold, and bacteria killers. Hydrogen peroxide is generally regarded as safe from the US FDA, and it is known as an antimicrobial agent. Beware, though, accelerated hydrogen peroxide products have technologies that have as high as 3 on the HMIS scale, and the health issues with these may be something to be of concern. These are being used in conjunction with hydrogen peroxide, which is generally regarded as safe, but it may be some of the others. However, all this being said, these may be some of the better choices when it comes to your disinfectants, and we definitely would say that using a hydrogen peroxide based product is better than greener than bleach. Quaternary ammonium compounds are ones that are being used quite widely. One of the things I would like to point out to you is that they're very popular. They kill 100% of the pathogens that are listed on the product label, and all quats are not the same. I want to impress upon you that whenever you're using a quat, the fibers that are in the material that you're using, such as cotton, I know that's used quite a bit. Microfiber is now being used more. These cleaning rags and these mops, they may actually neutralize and absorb some of the active ingredients in disinfectants. These quats, I'm saying not the disinfectants, but the disinfectant quats. So what you need to make sure is that these disinfectant quats are up to standard, and you might want to ask your supplier for a test kit so that you can test them. Make sure that your product is actually measuring up as you're using it. Now, all of these products leave a film, and Diana Stewart with Envirox, who is a GCIC consultant with us, has this to say: biofilms and residue are key factors. If the product being used is leaving behind sticky residues, which most do, then there is a potential for creating a perpetual biofilm cycle, where the same thing you're using to kill the bugs is actually creating a haven for them to reproduce. A clean surface where there is no residue is a germ-free surface. Now, ensuring an HMIS rating is no higher than 1 on a green sanitizer or disinfectant is the best guide to health and safety available in this category of chemical. Now, you may be asking exactly what is a biofilm. Well, a biofilm is maybe not a term that you're familiar with, but it is a thin, invisible layer of microorganisms, such as bacteria, fungi, algae, etc., that forms on and coats various surfaces. Now, bacteria that we commonly find by around on the surfaces, this biofilm actually can hold them together. Now, let me give you an example of what a biofilm may be. Dental plaque. That plaque on your teeth, This is a complex microbial community, and scientists estimate that this has around 400 distinct bacterial species that are found in this plaque. It's that yellowish film that gets on your teeth. You know, what we're trying to say, and I know that's not a very pretty picture, but a biofilm is not pretty. Here is a microscopic look of it, but this is where this bacteria is setting up housekeeping, and the pathogens that we're trying to get to are embedded and they're held within this biofilm. Now to that, one of the products that was used recently by this gentleman in a high school in California, he was a director, he is the director of maintenance and operations, had this to say: he recently conducted an ATP test for contamination levels at his high school. He was shocked at the high contamination levels, over 1,300. Remember I said over 30 was dirty? This is 1,300 and more. And it remained on the student's workout equipment even immediately following cleaning with a traditional product. When he applied the probiotics cleaner, he saw the bacterial level drop down to a level of 0 to 10 on the ATP count. He said that this kind of result is simply astounding. This is what you're talking about. Using a product, simple pH and physical removal, and removing it to the low levels which were safe for people to use. Now, you know, Kermit the Frog would say that it's not easy being green, and I would even conclude that it's even tougher to be green if you're a disinfectant. You know, currently the EPA does not permit green certification of disinfectants. You can green up your practices by using the right product at the right time. We want you to choose wisely and use the right product. Disinfectants are often overused and inappropriately introduced to our atmospheres, and these are not wise, green, or healthy when we present these toxins to our in our air. This is kind of akin to dropping an atomic bomb on something, when a well-placed hammer will do the job. We want to target what we're after, not destroy everything in sight. So I'm getting to the end here. What I like to say is that prevention of the high-touch surfaces, prevention of infection on these high-touch surfaces is what it's all about. Here you notice that there is the door handle to the inside of a toilet compartment, the door handle to a room, the water fountain, basically pH and physical removal. Whether you're using water, vinegar, disinfectant, sanitizer, whatever you might be using, it's still pH. And the physical removal is using the rags, the mops, whatever it might be. If you're in a room, classroom, or you're on surfaces that need dwell time and your product needs more time to work, as you can see on the left, the gentleman is spraying it down. He's giving it time. You rotate yourself around the room and do the jobs that's necessary, and then you come back and wipe. This is pH and physical removal. So what I like to say is get started. Find out the information that you need. Get the education that you need in order to identify what these particular areas are and why you need to go after them. Use the hammer, not the bomb. Use green procedures, not the strongest disinfectant, not the highest amount of bleach that you can use, but use the right tool for the right job. I'd like to finish with our last poll here, and this is: how do you rate your operations green performance? You know, there's a number of ways that we have to rate our performance, and not all of them are based on a national standard. So what we're asking you here is to rate your performance of the operation that you're doing is 1 to 3, 4 to 6, 7 to 10, or not at all. Give you a few minutes to answer that. I see we have a few questions to come in, and we'll try to get to some of these. We're going to be running over a little bit, but if you would like to stay, I'll be ready to answer the questions. Have we got our poll up and the answers coming yet? Okay, so 27% say that it's from 1 to 3, which is kind of low. 36% right in the middle. Looks like 18% at the high, from 7 to 10. I don't even want to say about how many people don't rate their green performance at all. What we have at the Green Clean Institute is a way to help you with this roadmap of performance. We have the Green Clean Best Practice Standards. This is a professional roadmap to successful green cleaning, and everyone that is attending live today will receive a free invite to this. What it does is, as you can see here, we have a facility that has went through the program. This is a self-assessment program. It helps you identify where you are at in your operation. This is an international standard that we use. As you can see, you check off your points. Over here, you check off your points. You will get a total here. You're trying to reach the highest number possible right here. And by doing that, you're going to be able to go through different screens and identify different things that will help you decide, are we doing what we need to do? Is there more that we can do? How can I increase that level of performance that my facility is doing? This helps everybody from the frontline worker to identify things all the way through management. This is something that middle management can take on up to the people that make the decisions. If you're wanting to change what you're doing, there's no better way to do that than identify where you are today and what you're doing. We're going to send you this 180 today that we want you to take. It's a self-assessment. It's free. Doesn't cost you anything. Let us know how you can score on it. I'd like to say special thanks to the technicians at Rolla Public Schools. They are a green certified school here in Rolla, Missouri, and have helped us with some of the pictures that you've seen. Diana Stewart was kind enough to give us a quote from Envirox. They are a certified partner with us. And Z Probiotics is a manufacturer of chemicals and has some certified products that we've recognized. In closing, Daryl Hicks would like to remind you that simple cleaning of the environmental surfaces may be one of our key defenses in the future battle against infectious disease. With antibiotic-resistant organisms proliferating on common touched points for up to 56 days or longer, the study of cleaning and measuring cleanliness is becoming all important. The time has come to turn cleaning professionals into hygiene specialists. Moreover, infection prevention will only become a reality when the hygiene specialist is properly regarded, educated, and equipped. I'd like to second that, and this is why the Green Clean Institute focuses on the technician. It's all about developing pride, respect, and this comes from knowledge. By having the knowledge, we can then do what we need to do in a green, healthier way. Now, upcoming webinars that I've got scheduled for the rest of this year is in September. We're going to talk about greening hard floor care. In October, we're going to focus on our base course, the GCI Technician. And in November, I'm going to come back to another floor care topic, which is carpet care. If you want to meet me in person, there's two different conventions and expos coming up. I'll be in Florida here this time next month. And also in October, don't miss the IEHA convention in Chicago. For those that you have attended today and would like a certification, it's not really a certification as such. This is an attendance. We are also giving to anybody that has attended this webinar a CEU credit towards their recertification next year for their firm. We will be sending that to you. There was a couple of questions that came in, and I know we're over the 2 o'clock, and I really would like to say thank you for those that are staying with me. We're actually to the questions and answers part, so if you'd like, we'll continue with some of that. But this is one of the questions that came in before. It said, while infection risks are paramount importance in the healthcare setting, many cleaning products and processes, either green or conventional, have little or direct impact on infection. And the question was, what can be done to reduce these risks? Well, I want to say that while cleaning does not have a direct access to the internal illness of the body, it is our efforts that are keeping the external sources from getting into the bloodstream. And I want to talk about that in the fact that we mainly focus on what we're breathing. The human body breathes in 25 pounds of air a day, the average adult human. And what we are absorbing through our skin comes directly into our bloodstream. So when you think about what you're touching, what you're wearing, what you're putting on your body, these things are. So in cleaning, it's what we're coming in contact with that affects our bloodstream. And this is for future where we'll get into a chronic and acute reactions. We also had another one is, what is the role of the janitorial employees in the cleaning and removal of blood and or body fluids from the workplace? OSHA has this list of 4 things that they recommend, and I'll leave that for you to read. It's basically, you know, if there is a spill of a body fluid situation on a surface, it is the responsibility of the technician to go and clean that up and remove those potential hazards. Usually this is for, you know, usually what we're talking about is, you know, it's 12 to 18 inches. It's very small. If you're getting into a large thing, such as a crime scene or something like that, it's much better for a professional. So at this point, I'd like to say, you know, get started. Take our green infection prevention course. Today's was a very quick, and I know that an hour doesn't seem quick, but this is a course that takes the average person 4 to 6 hours to go through. There's a lot of information in it. You can find it on our website. If you're taking the full course, it will give you 2 CEUs. So, and the answer to the first question of the day, what are the 2 basic principles in all of cleaning? It's pH and physical removal. What I'd like to say is thank you for attending. Those that asked some questions earlier, I will try to send you back your answers later because we are after the 2 o'clock. And I do appreciate your time today to spend an hour and 5 minutes with me. Hopefully I've helped address some of the questions and piqued your interest in how to green infection prevention.